Disclaimer: this video explores mature emotional themes, including romantic relationships and personal discovery. It does not contain explicit material. Viewer discretion is advised. I used to think I knew everyone in my life who mattered. My days were a routine: work, gym, overpriced coffee, then home to my silent apartment, and even quieter thoughts. But that night, I learned how quickly everything can shift. How someone who had always been there, in the background like soft noise, could suddenly become the center of your world. Her name was Elise. She worked in the marketing department at the same mid-sized media company where I'd been copywriting for 3 years. We shared elevators, shared all staff meetings, even shared a handful of awkward small talk moments near the break room over stale bagels and bad coffee. But I never really saw her. Not until the office holiday party last December. I wasn't even supposed to go. I had already drafted a text to bail on it, some excuse about feeling under the weather or needing to finish a deadline. But something pulled me there. Maybe boredom. Maybe loneliness. Maybe fate. I threw on a black jumpsuit, touched up my eyeliner, and showed up fashionably 20 minutes late, hoping to make an appearance and then ghost. And there she was. Not in business casual, not blending into the background. Elise was wearing a deep green dress that looked both effortless and impossible. Her hair, usually tied back in a tight bun, was loose and wavy. She looked different. Lit from the inside. Like she belonged to a world I hadn't been paying attention to. She caught me looking. And she smiled. I remember standing there with a plastic cup of lukewarm wine, unable to move. Everything around me faded into a low hum, the music, the laughter, the clinking glasses. And then she walked over. Confident. Curious. Like she'd been waiting for this too. "Didn't think you'd show," she said, tilting her head. I laughed, nervous. Neither did I. We started talking. At first, about work. Then not. About how much we hated small talk. About music. About how she made ceramic mugs as a hobby and once tried to sell them on Etsy, but gave up after 3 weeks. I told her I used to write poetry in college and hadn't written anything in years. It didn't feel like flirting. It felt like unraveling. Like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. Later, when most people had left or were too drunk to notice anything, we found ourselves on the rooftop terrace. Just the two of us and the cold city air. She looked up at the sky and said, "I think people walk around pretending. Pretending they're fine. Pretending they're not looking for something. Or someone." And then she looked at me. There was a pause. The kind that crackles with electricity, but also fear. Because something was shifting. I could feel it in the way she was watching me, like she saw past the version of myself I kept polished and guarded. Like she had noticed something I hadn't. And that was when she reached out and touched my hand. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overly romantic. Just simple. Real. Her fingers, cold from the wind, brushing mine. I didn't pull away. But I also didn't say anything, because in that moment I was trying to understand what was happening. What had always been happening right in front of me. And I didn't know what I was more afraid of, that I might lose this moment, or that I'd never be able to go back. They say the truth hides in quiet moments. If that's true, then that rooftop, the wind in our hair, her hand brushing mine, was deafening. But nothing happened. Not that night. Elise didn't lean in for a kiss. I didn't confess anything. We just stood there, locked in something unspoken. And then someone opened the terrace door, music spilled out, and the moment, whatever it was, snapped in half. The next morning, I kept replaying it in my head, unsure whether I'd imagined the tension. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe I'd read too much into it. We were colleagues, after all. And until last night, Elise had been background noise in my carefully curated, drama-free life. The kind of person who knew my name but not my story. But maybe she knew more than I thought. That week at work, things felt off. Not in a bad way. Just different. Elise didn't avoid me, but she didn't seek me out either. There were glances. Half smiles. Fleeting moments where our eyes met across the room during meetings. My heart kept jumping at nothing, like a song stuck on repeat. I found myself asking around. Harmless things. Elise, she's in marketing, right? What's her deal? Most people didn't know much. One guy said she transferred from another office a year ago. Someone else mentioned she'd recently gotten out of a long relationship. No one said more. And somehow, that made me want to know everything. I even looked her up online. Nothing invasive, just the usual. No public relationship photos, no tagged selfies with anyone who looked like a partner. Her socials were quiet, mostly pottery posts and the occasional dog picture. I didn't even know she had a dog. Her world felt close but unreachable. The turning point came one rainy Wednesday about 2 weeks after the party. I stayed late finishing a client pitch. Elise was still there too, working across the open floor plan. We were the last ones. The office was dim and quiet, the kind of silence that either comforts or unnerves. She walked over slowly, holding 2 mugs. One of them was hand-thrown ceramic, the kind she made herself. She handed it to me without a word. "Chamomile," she said. "You looked like you needed it." I wanted to say thank you, but all I could think was how weird it was that she knew. I had never told her I couldn't sleep lately. Never mentioned the anxiety. Never said that I hadn't been able to focus since the rooftop. We sat at the corner table near the window, watching the rain streak against the glass. That's when she asked, softly, "Did you feel it too?" That night. My breath caught. The question didn't need context. "I don't know what I felt," I said, which was only half a lie. She nodded slowly, as if she expected that answer. Then she whispered, "Sometimes I think I make things up in my head. That I imagine connections that aren't really there." I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw someone just as unsure, just as afraid of misreading the moment. Someone used to hiding behind calm exteriors and polite smiles. "I don't think you imagined it," I said finally. That silence returned, heavy and meaningful. But this time, it didn't feel unfinished. Still, we didn't talk about it again after that. Not directly. Days passed. Weeks. She started sitting near me during lunch. I caught her leaving notes on my desk, little sketches, inside jokes. We were circling something bigger. Closer. Neither of us brave enough to name it. And then came the night she didn't show up to work. No message. No warning. Just gone. That's when I found the note tucked inside the ceramic mug she gave me. Folded neatly. My name written in tiny, familiar handwriting. The note wasn't long. Just a few lines scribbled in ink that had bled slightly into the textured paper. Needed air. "I'm okay. Just figuring things out. Didn't mean to disappear." Elise, I read it 3 times before setting it down. My chest felt tight, like I'd been holding my breath all day and hadn't noticed. It wasn't like her to just vanish. She wasn't the dramatic type. If anything, she was always composed, measured. The kind of person who'd rather say nothing than say too much. And that's what scared me. Over the next couple of days, I tried not to spiral. I stayed late at work just in case she came back. I checked her socials, her desk, even asked around, nothing. HR said she'd requested a few personal days. No emergency. No red flags. Just personal reasons. But everything felt wrong. I started replaying our conversations in my head, wondering if I'd missed something. Had I pushed too hard that night? Said too much? Not enough? There was a growing pressure inside me, not just from missing her, but from the way I had started needing her. Not romantically, not just emotionally, but deeply. Like I'd uncovered something in myself through knowing her, and without her, I couldn't finish the picture. I didn't tell anyone. Not about her, not about the note. Not even when my friend Maya invited me out and I just sat there at the bar, distracted. She noticed. "Okay, what's up?" Maya asked, sipping her cocktail. "You've been off for days." I hesitated, then finally said, "There's someone at work." "Elise." She raised an eyebrow. "Someone, like, someone?" I nodded. "I think so. Maybe. I don't know what we are." Maya tilted her head. "Do you know what you want?" And I didn't have an answer for that. Because wanting Elise wasn't just about her. It was about what it meant for the version of myself I'd carefully built over years, the one who kept things safe and surface level, who always had plausible deniability when it came to feelings. Elise cracked that open. Being with her would mean letting that version of myself die. And that terrified me. By Friday, I was a mess of overthinking and unresolved tension. I left work early and walked. No destination. Just city blocks and traffic noise. My phone buzzed twice in my pocket before I bothered checking. Unknown number. You busy? My heart stopped. Where are you? I replied. The dots danced for a moment before her message came through. Studio. Needed to throw something on the wheel. Wanna come? Of course I went. Her pottery studio was tucked behind a coffee shop downtown. She rented space there on weekends, but I'd never been inside. It smelled like earth and rain and something clean I couldn't name. She was wearing a loose white t-shirt stained with clay, hair tied up. No makeup. No filters. Hey, she said when she saw me. Hey. She didn't explain her absence. I didn't ask. Instead, she led me to a corner of the studio where a half-finished mug sat on a wheel. I've been thinking, she said quietly. I got scared. I nodded. Me too. She looked at me, really looked. But I don't want to keep running. And just like that, the air changed. There was no kiss. No dramatic confession. Just something real, raw, and brave and suspended between us. But before either of us could say more, the studio door opened. A woman walked in. Older. Confident. Familiar with Elise. Elise froze. Didn't expect you to be here tonight, the woman said. Then her eyes landed on me. And just like that, the moment shattered. I didn't know who the woman was. But Elise did. I could tell by the way she stiffened, her fingers twitching nervously in the clay still wet on her hands. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at the woman either. She just stared down at the half-shaped mug on the wheel like it could somehow save her. The woman took a step inside. Tall, confident, effortlessly stylish in that way that said she belonged wherever she went. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I stopped by your place. Thought I'd check here next, she said. Then, after a beat, you've been hard to reach. I needed time, Elise said softly. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the weight behind it. The woman finally turned to me. And you are? I started, but Elise cut in. She's a friend, Elise said, too quickly. Just a friend. Something in me dropped. I didn't say anything, but I didn't have to. My silence filled the room louder than any words could have. The woman crossed her arms. Right. Well, I'll leave you to whatever this is. Just know that disappearing doesn't erase history, Elise. Elise flinched. Not visibly. Not to anyone else, maybe. But I saw it. I felt it. The door closed behind the woman like a gavel. I waited a beat. Then two. Want to tell me who that was? She wiped her hands on a towel, then finally looked at me. Her name's Valerie. We were together for a long time. Are you still? No, we're not, she said, cutting me off. But we were. For years. I thought we were done. I am done. But sometimes history doesn't let you go cleanly. I didn't know what to say. So many thoughts rushed through me, jealousy, confusion, doubt, and the one I hated the most, fear. Fear that maybe I had just been a moment of distraction. A phase. A temporary thing while Elise figured herself out. Elise, why didn't you tell me about her? She sat down heavily on a wooden stool, elbows on her knees. Because I didn't know if any of this was real. If we were real. And I was scared that if I said it out loud, it would make it harder to walk away if I had to. I swallowed. Do you want to walk away? She looked at me then, eyes glassy but steady. No. But I'm terrified that if I stay, I'll mess it up. I have a habit of running when things get real. Valerie, she always made me feel like I was too much or not enough, depending on the day. I lost myself in that. I've only just started to find myself again. I stepped closer. You don't have to be perfect with me. I'm not asking for that. Then what are you asking for? I didn't hesitate. The truth. Even when it's messy. Even when it scares you. She closed her eyes for a second, then nodded slowly. Then here's the truth, I think about you all the time. I replay that night on the rooftop over and over. And I hate that I didn't kiss you when I wanted to. The air between us cracked. So why didn't you? I asked. Because I wasn't ready. And now, before she could answer, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, then at me. It's Valerie. She says she's coming back. What does she want? I don't know, Elise whispered. But I think she's not ready to let go. And just like that, the fear wasn't just emotional anymore. It was real. Tangible. A past threatening to rewrite a future that hadn't even started yet. I didn't hear from Elise for 2 days after that night. Her phone went straight to voicemail. No messages. No updates at work. It was like she vanished again, but this time it didn't feel like escape. It felt like something was wrong. By the 3rd day, I couldn't take it. I went back to the studio. The lights were off, door locked, but someone had taped a flyer to the front, a gallery event happening that night. Elise's name was listed among the featured artists. I didn't hesitate. The gallery was a white-walled space near the Arts District. Clean. Minimal. The kind of place that made silence feel intentional. Elise's work was displayed near the back, delicate mugs, bowls, and small sculptural pieces. They were quiet, emotional. I knew her hands had shaped every curve. I could feel her in them. Then I saw her. She was standing by a table, talking to a woman in a green dress. Not Valerie. Someone else. Her hand rested lightly on Elise's shoulder. Casual, maybe, but familiar. I was about to walk over when I heard my name. I turned. Valerie. She stepped out from the shadows like she'd been waiting. We need to talk. I don't think we do, I said, trying to move past her. She didn't tell you, did she? Her voice was too calm, too certain. I froze. Tell me what? Valerie held my gaze. She never ended things with me. I blinked. She said you weren't together. Valerie shrugged. We weren't. But we weren't exactly not either. Elise doesn't know how to let go. She told me she needed space to figure things out. So I gave it to her. But that doesn't mean she was done. My stomach turned. Why are you telling me this now? Because you're standing in front of her work, thinking you're part of her story. But maybe you're just another intermission. I walked away before she could say more. My chest felt tight as I made my way across the gallery. I didn't want to believe her, but there was something in the way Elise looked up when she saw me. Her eyes widened, like she was surprised I was there. Not happy. Not relieved. Surprised. Hey, she said, stepping forward. Did you know Valerie was here? I asked. Her smile faltered. She came by earlier. I didn't think she'd stay. You said you ended things. I did, Elise said. But her voice wasn't steady. It's complicated. No, I said, louder than I meant to. It's not. You either told her you were done, or you didn't. Elise opened her mouth, then closed it. The woman in the green dress stepped over. Everything okay? Elise hesitated. That second, just a heartbeat of silence, was all it took to shatter something. I stepped back. Who is she? Elise didn't answer. I turned and walked out before I could hear the explanation. Outside, the cold air slapped my face. I felt foolish. Played. Like I'd built a future on a moment that never really belonged to me. But as I stood there trying to breathe, my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. You don't know me, but I think you should know what Elise has been hiding. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. I didn't sleep that night. I reread the message a dozen times. You don't know me, but I think you should know what Elise has been hiding. The number was blocked. No name. Just a time. A cafe on the east side. Noon. I almost didn't go. I told myself it was probably some drama-stirring ex, someone bitter or bored. But something in my gut told me otherwise. So I went. The cafe was quiet, half-empty, with soft music and the smell of burnt espresso hanging in the air. I sat by the window, heart thudding. At exactly 12:03, she walked in. Early 30s. Dark curls tucked behind her ears. Tired eyes. She spotted me and walked straight over. You're Elise's friend? She asked, sliding into the booth. I guess that depends on what day it is, I said flatly. She gave a sad smile. Fair. She introduced herself as Nadia. And then she pulled out her phone, opened the gallery's event page. I know you saw her pieces. But did you read the statements she wrote with them? I blinked. No, I didn't get that far. She turned the phone around. One of the blurbs read, "This series is about starting over, about how, even after we hurt people, we can still be worthy of something new." Each piece is a confession I was too afraid to say out loud. Especially to her. Below it, the initials, ER. My breath caught. This was about me? Nadia nodded. I think she's been trying to say something, but didn't know how. I've known Elise for years. We dated a long time ago, before Valerie. Before all of this. She doesn't always know how to leave the door open without setting the house on fire. I stared out the window. I wanted to trust her. I really did. Nadia tilted her head. Maybe she didn't lie. Maybe she panicked. People do dumb things when they think they don't deserve love. I didn't say anything. Then Nadia leaned forward. For what it's worth, I think she meant every word she wrote. I think she's trying. Later that evening, I went back to the studio. It was quiet. The wheel was still. Elise was sitting in the corner, curled up in a threadbare armchair with a mug in her hands. She looked up as I walked in. No surprise this time. Just hope and fear. You got the message, she said. I nodded. Why didn't you tell me? I was scared you'd leave before I had the chance to fix it. I almost did. She stood up. Everything with Valerie. It was over, but I never told her clearly enough. I was trying to be kind, but all I did was blur the lines. That's on me. And I hate that it cost me you. I watched her, trying to read the space between her words. For once, there was no performance. No hiding, just her. I read your artist's statement, I said. She smiled, shy and sad. I meant every word. I know. We stood there, not touching, not rushing. Just breathing the same air again. Then I said, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. She nodded slowly. I can do that. If you still want me. I stepped closer. I never stopped. And in that moment, the fear faded. There was still healing to do and trust to rebuild. But there was something else too, something real. A beginning. It's been 6 months since that night in the studio. No more unspoken things. No more ghosts from the past hiding in the corners. Just us, two people trying, every day, to be better, to be honest, and to hold on to something that felt too rare to lose. Elise didn't fix everything overnight. Neither did I. But she kept her word. We talked. We fought sometimes. We cried more than I care to admit. But we also laughed. God, we laughed. It's funny how healing sneaks in not as fireworks, but in slow mornings, shared meals, quiet apologies. Valerie stopped reaching out after Elise finally gave her the closure she never got. She met her in person, said what she needed to say, and didn't let guilt steer the conversation. Elise told her the truth. Not the safe version. The real one. And for the first time, she didn't flinch when the past looked her in the eye. And Nadia? She became a friend. Not someone hovering on the edge, but someone who genuinely wanted the best for us. Turns out you can love someone without needing to keep them. That kind of maturity is rare, and I'm grateful for it. Elise started teaching pottery workshops. Watching her with others, hands steady and kind, made me realize something. She hadn't just been trying to rebuild us. She was rebuilding herself, too. As for me, I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. I stopped wondering if I was just another chapter in someone else's story. Because now I know I'm a co-author. We both are. One night, a few weeks ago, we went back to the rooftop where it all started. The city lights stretched out in every direction. Elise turned to me and said, I think I saw you that night not because I was finally ready, but because I needed something real to hold on to. And you were that. She kissed me then, the kind of kiss that doesn't rush or ask. Just is. So, yes, that one night changed everything. But it wasn't magic. It was messy, human, honest, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Did you enjoy the story? Let us know in the comments. What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Romantic drama? Slow burn? Second chances? Drop your ideas below. We read every suggestion.